A host for SummerSlam was announced, a show-off returned, and someone got kicked in the balls in the homecoming. What's going on? Well, we're about to tell you on this week's Monday Night Raw review, powered by Google Hangouts. Prepare to warp.
Hi, this is the incomparable Lance Moss from youtube.com/LanceMossTV, and you're watching The Wrestle Gamer on WGS-TV.
Greetings, everyone. You have warped your way in from the tubes of you into another installment of WGS-TV right here on youtube.com/WrestleGamer. I am the WrestleGamer, Double B Billy Boudreaux, along with the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, the one hardcore one himself, Rick Head. Rick, how you doing?
Well, you know, I'm doing great, and of course, I'm glad to be back here on WGS-TV, and what a fucking Raw we had last night, pardon my French.
Well, definitely. Now, one thing we were talking about before we started this broadcast, guys and gals, is the fact that I kind of feel that the past couple of Monday Night Raws have been okay. There's always been like one match to kind of outshine everything. You know, one match to take away that we all can think about. Hands down, last week it was that triple threat match between Cesaro, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. That was an incredible triple threat match. And this week's Monday Night Raw, there's, with it being the SummerSlam go-home show, it really wasn't that one match that kind of outshined everything else. Well, let's officially get to the review so that way you guys can get a glimpse of what we're talking about. First off, the Authority would do their big SummerSlam promo where they would make the announcement that Jon Stewart would be the host of SummerSlam this year. And Rick, I got to ask you your thoughts on that.
I just think the go-home show overall, if I may, was it was a watered-down SummerSlam. And I don't know why the WWE does this, and guys, and I'm going to be ranting throughout the whole show, so you have to forgive me on this one. But Raw sucked. It was like basically, I wish I could say it was so lackluster, and I was hoping they would raise the bar, and they just failed to do that.
But what about your thoughts about Jon Stewart being named the host of SummerSlam?
Again with Jon Stewart, I really don't think much about it. I'm like, I don't understand. I know that WWE is trying to make SummerSlam the WrestleMania of the summer, and they're trying to raise the bar again more. But Jon Stewart, I think he's funny. I've watched The Daily Show a couple of times, and I've gotten a laugh. He's a great comedian, but I just don't see the purpose. I mean, at least before on a couple of SummerSlams, or WrestleManias, we've had people, former wrestlers like The Rock. That would have been a great host. They could have brought somebody in like Batista, they can't bring in Hulk Hogan, but some other great legends. And I think that's what they should have done.
Opening match on this week's Monday Night Raw was a tag match, Randy Orton and Cesaro versus Sheamus and Kevin Owens, which I think, if memory serves me, I think this was a rematch from this past week's SmackDown. I might be wrong on that one, but it was a decent tag match. Really wasn't bad per se. Randy Orton, there's one thing, though, that kind of struck me as odd, and I don't know if you saw this like I saw this, Rick. But when Randy Orton was going for the finish, at first he was going to do it on Kevin Owens, and just something just didn't look right. Like Orton was about to go through with it, and like Owens had stopped him or something. Something looked just really, really odd with Owens' version or block of the RKO, because then he went then he switched over to Sheamus, and it was a very fluid motion into the RKO. I'm not sure. It's like if Randy Orton might have been a botch by Orton or Kevin Owens or something to that extent, but it just looked really, really odd when Orton attempted that RKO and Owens just kind of shoved him off like, oh no, you're wrong person. You're supposed to go do it on Sheamus. And I don't know if you saw it like I did, but that's the way I kind of saw it, Rick.
I have to somewhat agree with you, but I don't think it was. I think it was more of like they tried to reverse it. I think that was the original plan, to have Owens block it, but it did kind of look a little botchy. And then, of course, where Owens pushed him into Cesaro, where he pushed him in and got the RKO, that kind of made a little bit more sense. So it was not, like I said, it was an okay match for what it was. But, without bitching again about how Raw was in general, I don't think it did any favors for SummerSlam.
Dean Ambrose would be on commentary for Luke Harper and Roman Reigns, and of course Dean Ambrose always very talkative and did an amazing job on commentary to try to sell the match as best as he could for SummerSlam for Reigns and Ambrose taking on the Wyatt family. And the matchup in itself with Luke Harper and Roman Reigns was okay. Reigns would end up hitting the spear on Luke Harper to pick up the win. So I really can't say anything bad about this one. Tamina and Becky Lynch, again, Rick, I got to say it. Ever since they've called up Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, the NXT Divas, the main roster Divas have been much more interesting to watch.
I will admit that, yeah, I'll have to agree with you there. It's definitely glad this Diva Revolution is really starting to pick up some speed. However, I have to say, if I have to complain, of course, again, the match, if you notice, throughout the whole match, we saw Tamina dominate, and then, of course, Becky Lynch comes around and she gets the arm breaker for the finish. And for me, it was like, huh? It made no sense. But I guess that's as we be calling it WWE logic.
Yep, definitely. Mark Henry would take on Rusev again for some odd reason, but this time Lana would be on commentary. Lana, like I said, it's a heavenly vision. We get to see Lana out there. It's basically Ally McNeil. For those of you who remember her, just basically her reincarnated in a sense, especially with the mini skirts and whatnot. Now, Rusev would lock on the Accolade on Mark Henry to pick up the win, but the core thing to take away from this is what happened after the match was over, with Lana calling back in Summer Rae, and then after she kind of slapped the taste out of Summer Rae's mouth, would call in Rusev, and we all knew that Ziggler was going to make his return. It was set in stone, and the way that Lana just kind of blew it in a sense, because if you think back, that she was already looking towards the back with a smile on her face before Ziggler's. Yeah, it was kind of her. I think she would have waited until the music hit, possibly, but doing it before it started kind of blew it out of the water. Ziggler, like I said, it's good to have him back. His hair is not as bleach blonde as it used to be anymore, but I got to say, it was perfect timing to bring him back, because they really needed to add some more match content for SummerSlam. And then in the backstage segment, after all this happened, Ziggler would challenge Rusev to a one-on-one match, which I believe has been accepted for SummerSlam. So I got to say, that's probably, Rick, right there, the core piece to take away from right there. But again, my only gripe is Lana blew it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, because Lana was it was so obvious that, okay, somebody's coming down, and it had to be Dolph Ziggler, even though a couple weeks before, Lana said that Dolph Ziggler won't be back until after SummerSlam. But once you started looking, I'm like, oh, Ziggler's coming down. And lo and behold, he did. Now, they're doing a one-on-one with Rusev and Dolph Ziggler, and what I think they should have done to really push the Lana Summer Rae feud is have maybe a mixed tag, and that just didn't come true, unfortunately. So, and I think with SummerSlam, they need to have some more specialty matches. They already have a few that's going to help, but they need to have more. And we'll get on with that as we continue this review.
Ryback would take on The Miz with Big Show on commentary. I gotta love the comment that Big Show made about Miz being a gender-confused Jedi. I thought that was hilarious as hell. And a lot of fans saying, "Well, Big Show needs to retire." I don't agree with that whatsoever. However, I have heard reports that he wants to start working on a more limited basis with WWE. I don't know if there's any validity to those reports, but it's just something that I've heard, something that I've seen. Because to me, I think Big Show still has quite a bit left to contribute to the wrestling industry. So when fans say that he needs to retire, I don't agree with that whatsoever. Ryback would end up hitting the shell shock on Miz to pick up the win. So I guess whatever the thing they were trying to do with Bo Dallas pretty much just got shot out of the water. And because on SmackDown, Apparently, it's WWE.com exclusive. Bo Dallas came out to try to get himself inserted into the Intercontinental Championship match, and that just didn't happen. And Ryback just kind of decimated Bo Dallas after that. And that was never shown on TV. That's just exclusively on WWE.com. Why? I don't know. Maybe that they figured, oh, they try to sneak that in, then fans would notice and whatnot, and fans wouldn't care. But there was no instance, no appearance from Bo Dallas. There's no inclination about him being added into the Intercontinental Championship match. So what was the purpose of having that on SmackDown? I have no idea, other than possibly time filler. But then again, WWE, in their brilliance, instead of adding that on TV, they figured, oh, edit it out and just add it as a WWE.com exclusive, so no one will actually give a shit about it. That's pretty much all you could say about that. Now, the contract signing, and they're in Minnesota, by the way, which apparently is an anti-Cena crowd, in a sense. Seth Rollins' promo before Cena came out, calling Cena a disease, and Seth Rollins was the cure. Apparently, a lot of the fans in the crowd actually liked that, in a sense. But Cena coming out and actually probably worked, in my estimation, Rick, a really good promo that actually won the crowd back over onto his side, because that was indeed an amazing promo that he did.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I think both promos were very decent, because the way Seth Rollins put it out there, he said he was disease and he was the cure, and that he's a past and he's been on this top of the mountain and he needs to get knocked off. And despite what some fans might think, there was a lot of truth to that promo. But on the flip side, Cena had a lot of good truth talked about it, about how, he's trying to be Triple H's predecessor. And if you looked at the way Triple H was kind of eyeballing Seth, you can't help but think that he's going to play some kind of a role to be at SummerSlam tonight. Now,
I love the final statement by Cena before he signed the contract, that Triple H was never Ric Flair's bitch, but this Sunday at SummerSlam, he's going to make Rollins his. And I think that's the last statement that immediately won everybody over, that Cena was going to make Rollins his bitch at SummerSlam.
And you know what, though? There was a small botch. I don't know if anybody caught it during that whole segment. Seth Rollins never signed the contract. He had it in his hand, but he never signed it.
Ooh.
I don't know if that was a botch, or if WWE is going to use that to spin it and saying, well, gee, he never signed the contract, so this match is not official.
Possibly, but then again, it's WWE logic we're talking about here.
Exactly. I'm guessing it's more of a botch, but I wouldn't put it past WWE to try to spin it.
We had an 8-man tag match following this. Primetime players and the Lucha Dragons taking on Los Matadores and the New Day. I have absolutely, positively no idea what the heck was going on here, especially with El Torito taking out Xavier Woods. It's not every day you get to say that someone got taken out by a little black bull. Kalisto would end up doing a springboard hurricanrana pin on one of the Matadors. Reason why I say that is there's really no way to there's no distinction between Fernando and Diego. There's hardly any way to tell them apart. And so that's why I'm just saying on one of the Matadors to pick up the win. But however, Nikki Bella, the WWE Divas champion, taking on the NXT Women's Champion, Sasha Banks. This has been kind of a dream match for a lot of fans for quite some time, even when Banks was just still exclusive on NXT. I think a lot of people have always been wanting to see, what would happen with the WWE Divas champion meeting the NXT Women's Champion, and I still kind of call it a little bit of onus on WWE, because of the fact that for months and months, when Kevin Owens was NXT champion, they allowed him to come out with the championship belt. And why can't they afford Sasha Banks the same thing with the NXT Women's Champion? Because she was recognized on live shows ever since she came up as the NXT Women's Champion. So why can't she have the same opportunity to bring the NXT Women's Championship belt onto the main roster TV, like Kevin Owens had the the chance to bring out the NXT championship on main roster TV. That I don't understand, because it would bring more emphasis to the fact, Rick, in my personal opinion, with this being the Divas champion, Nikki Bella, taking on the NXT women's champion in Sasha Banks.
Well, I want to say, first off, if you recall, several months ago, before AJ Lee left, when Paige debuted, she had the NXT Divas Championship, and they actually fought. And if I'm not mistaken, if I recall, Paige won the Divas Champion, so she was at the only time in history who had both belts at the same time. Now, as far as why they didn't do it this time, I don't know. WWE logic. My guess is the reason why they did it with Kevin Owens is because they wanted to push Kevin Owens and recognize him as a champion, because he was really starting to feud with John Cena, and they wanted to give him the possibility that he could win the United States belt, which obviously never came real.
No, it didn't. But it's just a little gripe that I had. And another little gripe that I had, which I think was more of an insult more than anything. Now, I understand that this was Brock Lesnar's hometown. I understand that, you know, the fans wanted to see him. But I think it was almost a little bit of an insult, in my personal opinion. Well, people want to insult Nikki Bella. That's fine and dandy with me. Sasha Banks, not so much, because I know Sasha Banks is actually an incredible talent, female talent for WWE, and I think it was almost a little bit of an insult to her, in my personal opinion, from when they wanted to say that we want Lesnar, we don't want to see you, we want to see Lesnar. And, you know, to an extent, I understand why they wanted to do it, because it was in his hometown. But, you know, they needed to wait, because apparently this was going to be the main event segment of Monday Night Raw. You know, Banks would end up locking on the Banks segment on Nikki Bella. And my one other gripe about this one, Rick, is there was no gratuitous Sasha Banks crotch shot for the Banks segment.
Yeah, you know, as what HWR has been calling it, it's called the camel toe of the week.
Well, they didn't do it this week. They didn't do it, but they might be saving that for NXT TakeOver. So in essence, Rick, we're going to have a very busy weekend. Saturday for NXT TakeOver, and then the very next night being SummerSlam. So we got an event-filled weekend for WGS-TV and HWR in a sense. But now the main event segment, the homecoming of Brock Lesnar. One thing I'm going to say right off the bat, Paul Heyman may be a great talker, but he sucks as a singer. Because I was covering my ears for that. I mean, like, Paul Heyman, you're one of the best talkers in the business, but you can't sing for shit. Now, they started playing a little bit of the Undertaker mind games, which I kind of figured was going to happen. You know, with the lights going out the first time, the second time Undertaker goes low again, and then does the choke slam and the tombstone pile driver. And according to traditional wrestling logic, again, this is traditional wrestling logic that we're talking about. Whenever someone like that goes over on the home show, the go-home show, then 9 times out of 10 on the pay-per-view, they would not be going over on the pay-per-view. But then again, we've seen that logic, Rick, and as of late, just completely be blown out the water.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think because this is like the rematch, I won't be surprised if The Undertaker does take a win. And that's going to be something we're going to be talking about again on our show tonight on our SummerSlam picks. But as far as the match for SummerSlam, I really think that should have been like a non-sanctioned street fight match. And I think that would have been a lot better, especially with the way he's been doing the low blows. But right now, it's just a regular match.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, guys and gals, it's time to go into our overall scores and our picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw, this being the go-home show. And like I said on the onset of this review, there's always been that one match, and especially when it pertains to the past couple of Monday Night Raws, there's always been that one match that kind of outshined the others. And this week, we really didn't have that. We really didn't have that one match that kind of outshined the others. They were always just kind of on the level. Now, if I were to pick I do apologize to the background noise, guys and gals. I'm in a.
Well, it's okay. I think what happened is they watched Raw last night and they're still not happy about it.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, if I were to pick one match that was the best match of the night, it would have to be, in my personal opinion, Luke Harper and Roman Reigns. It was a really well-worked match, and I can't say enough about Roman Reigns or Luke Harper for that instance. And I really don't think either one of those guys get enough credit for what they do in WWE, especially on how good of a talent Luke Harper is. I mean, this guy is like a new era Mike Awesome with a beard. This guy can, for the size that he is, for him to be as agile and flexible as he is nothing short of amazing, guys and gals. You can't speak enough on how good of a talent Luke Harper is, and I just don't think he's been given enough talent, enough credit for doing that. Worst segment of the night, or worst match of the night, I would have to probably go to the Mark Henry and Rusev match. It wasn't that. I think they probably just put less emphasis on the match and more emphasis on the return of Dolph Ziggler. So they figured, why not just do a shit match? And that's pretty much what they did with Mark Henry and Rusev. So my overall score is going to be a 2.75 out of 5. Over to you, Rick. What's your overall score in your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week?
Well, as I've said several times, I've been very, very disappointed with how the show's gone, with how Raw did. They should have raised the bar. They failed to do that. I can't even give it a 2.0. I have to give it a 1.75. Yes, there were some good segments. I think the Cena Rollins segment was probably one of the better ones. If you want to put the worst match, yeah, I'd have to give the Rusev Mark Henry, because Mark Henry, he's the world's strongest jobber. And then I think if I put another match that I really didn't care for, I thought the mixed, the 8-man tag team, really, yeah, they had some good spots, but again, it's just watering down SummerSlam. It's not doing them any favors.
Again, guys and gals, I do apologize for the background noise in here. So what we want to know from you guys out there, the viewers and subscribers, your thoughts on Monday Night Raw this week. What are your overall scores? What are your picks for best and worst match or segment of Monday Night Raw this week? As you can hear, the child in the background still very upset about Monday Night Raw, like a lot of people are justifiably are. So we want to know what you guys have to see. Be sure you put your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and favorite this video. Rick, where can fans check you out on HWR?
Of course, they can always check us out on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. And please take a few minutes and subscribe to us over at youtube.com/HWR Show. We're also on Pinterest, Twitter, and a whole bunch of other social medias. Just look us up, HWR Show. And of course, tonight, we will have our SummerSlam picks. If you go over on our Facebook page and you put those picks, we will give you a shout out and we will announce your picks over the air at the end of our show.
Don't forget WGS-TV is on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The links will be provided in the description box below. Don't forget WB plays every day at 9 a.m. Central Time. I'm doing a lot of interesting games, and especially on today's installment of Honey Pop, which is the finale of that game. So I'm finally done with that one. I've been doing that one since October, so I'm actually glad I'm actually done with that one. But anyway, be sure you guys check that out. Also, I'll have 2 videos in the annotations at the end of this one, and the links will be provided in the description box below for you to check out. So with that being said, guys and gals, for the hardcore host of Hardcore Wrestling Radio, Rick Head, I'm the Wrestle Gamer. Don't be Billy Bourgeois with a screaming child in the background saying we'll see you at the next Warp Zone.
I'm rude, I bleed, I will die.
You would have to bring up that song. I choose to go back to lying beneath the sunlight. Stretching my whole body out, I allow the warmth to shine on all of my body. Slowly